Ladies and gentlemen, how do?
We look at Dementia Don and how those closest to him like Stephen, Himmler, Miller, and Steve, Nazi boy, wife beater, Bannon, are basically committing elder abuse, and using this old man who wears a diaper because he regularly craps himself, and can no longer string a sentence together, because his brain is jelly, to carry out their agenda. They are like the care worker that steals jewelry from an old lady, or gets them to sign over their life savings to them. Trump is not entirely innocent. As long as his massive ego is being catered to, he will do anything, even roll over and ask for a tummy rub. But things are getting well into the realms of authoritarianism now, with sitting judges like Judge Hannah Dugan being arrested, and Senator Alex Padilla, cosplay Kristi Noem, went on Fox News and made it all about her, deliberately lying, claiming that the senator didn't identify himself, and that had she known who he was, then things would have been different. Fox News, however, left out the footage of Senator Padilla identifying himself and the appalling arrest and handcuffing, but we have the full footage.
They have tried to insert into the city. So I want to say thank you to every single person that has been able to do this.
Hands up, hands up.
Federal agents forcibly removed California Senator Alex Padilla from Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem's news conference in Los Angeles Thursday, after he interrupted her.
Sir, hands up, hands up. I'm Senator Alex Padilla. I have questions for the secretary, because the fact of the matter is a half a dozen violent criminals that you're rotating on your hands off.
How many of our ICE agents have been docked or
On the ground. On the ground. Hands behind your back. Hands behind your back.
If you let my hands go and put them behind my back.
All right. Cool. One hand. Lay flat. Lay flat.
Other hand, sir. Other hand.
There's no recording allowed out here.
I do not know.
There's no recording allowed out here per FBI, right?
So what, I'm sorry?
There's no recording allowed out here.
That's my boss. I have to
There's no recording allowed out here.
Conducting a press conference to update everyone on the enforcement actions that are ongoing to bring peace to the city of Los Angeles. And this man burst into the room, started lunging towards the podium, interrupting me and elevating his voice, and was stopped, did not identify
Senator Alex Padilla. I'm Senator Alex Padilla.
himself, and was removed from the room. So as soon as he identified himself, appropriate actions were taken. But I would say that, I had a conversation with the senator after this. We sat down for 10 to 15 minutes and talked about the fact that nobody knew who he was. He didn't say who he was.
I'm Senator Alex Padilla. I'm Senator Alex Padilla. I have questions.
He had been lunging forward, and people were trying to detain him for quite a period of time. And that this, we're leaders, we're public servants. And if he had requested a meeting, I would have loved to have sat down and had a conversation with him. That coming into a press conference like this is political theater. It's wrong, and it does a disservice to this country and the people who live here. So we sat down, had a conversation. We probably disagree on 90% of the topics, but we agreed to exchange phone numbers. We'll continue to talk and share information, and I think that's the way it should be in this country. I wish he would have acted that way in the beginning instead of creating a scene like this. I would say
it's the anatomy of a lie. We don't often get to see it. The lie told on Fox News, the smiling anchor nodding along, who had access to the video that disproves the lie being told by the government official. The same government official who thinks this is what habeas corpus is.
The Secretary, Noem, what is habeas corpus?
Well, habeas corpus is a constitutional right that the president has to be able to remove people from this country and suspend their right to.
Let me stop you, ma'am. Habeas corpus, excuse me, that's incorrect.
President Lincoln used it.
Excuse me. Habeas corpus is the legal principle that requires that the government provide a public reason for detaining and imprisoning people. If not for that protection, the government could simply arrest people, including American citizens, and hold them indefinitely for no reason. Habeas corpus is the foundational right that separates free societies like America from police states like North Korea.
And then seemed to sabotage her own chances when she wrote in her own words, her own telling of her experience murdering her own dog by shooting her own description of Frisky Puppy in the face. This is someone for whom sadistic conduct toward animals, at least, was part of her brand. How do you think she's writing this out in terms of the manner in which she went on Fox News, seeming confident that no one would check her facts?
Yeah, well, what's interesting is her accusing somebody else of performative theater because nobody has done more cosplaying. She's constantly dressing herself up like federal agents. She's constantly putting detainees behind her for photo ops, which is some of the grossest behavior I've ever seen out of a public official. But Nicole, I also want to pick up on something that you're talking about, which is the lies that Republicans are telling. So one thing that has been interesting, you saw a lot of people, in the tech community and conservatives talk about how you needed Trump to be a free speech president. He was going to be a free speech president. We have to have free speech in this country. Well, a sitting senator should be able to ask a question of the head of Department of Homeland Security. And in fact, I find it odd that Kristi Noem wouldn't recognize Senator Alex Padilla. I mean, he is the ranking member, I believe, on one of the immigration committees. So the idea that she absolutely doesn't know who he is absurd. But, you've got Donald Trump saying if people show up to protest his tanks in the streets, that they're going to be met with incredible force. Well, he's not talking about violence. He's not talking about riots. He's talking about people who show up to protest the tanks in the streets, that they will be met with force. I mean, this is what this administration is doing. This is not singular. This is not one-off. This is about how this entire administration is approaching people who dissent. And so nobody better come here and try to tell me this is a free speech president or a free speech administration. Her reasoning for the treatment of Senator Alex Padilla is that he was disrespectful. Being disrespectful is not a reason to handcuff somebody on the ground. It's just not even a U.S. senator, right? It's not. And I got to say, my last thing is Republican senators should be very careful on this right now. If they do not come out and defend Senator Padilla's right to ask questions of this administration, of his colleagues, they are setting an extraordinarily dangerous precedent for how senators are going to be treated in this country. They should protect their own institution. They should have an interest in their office being protected from this kind of behavior, because they're all going to want to ask questions at some point, accountability questions of their leadership. And that is right, and it's American.
A spokesperson for Padilla says he was handcuffed at one point but is not currently detained.
If this is how the Department of Homeland Security responds to a senator with a question, you can only imagine what they're doing to farm workers, to cooks, to day laborers.
Noem went to Los Angeles in support of the Marines and National Guard troops the Trump administration called in to protect federal buildings and personnel in Los Angeles as anti-ICE protests continue.
I want to thank the Marines, the National Guard, our soldiers, our military men and women who have shown up here to help make sure that we have security.
I mean, I think we need to see this for what it is. There's two grave and extremely alarming elements to what just happened. First and foremost, a United States senator who identified himself as such, who sought a question, pursuing his constitutional duty and ability to conduct oversight, to ask a cabinet secretary a question, was assaulted, thrown to the floor, and arrested. And then secondly, what is also deeply alarming is that the Department of Homeland Security under Secretary Kristi Noem has gone to the public and lied on record saying that he did not identify himself when there is video evidence that they are being dishonest with the American people. There must be a retraction. We must have an investigation of what just happened. This is a deeply alarming escalation in the violence of the Trump administration. They have released chaos and unleashed chaos in the city of Los Angeles by violently raiding and ripping apart peaceful public spaces. And now they're tackling and they are arresting United States sitting members of Congress while going on the record and lying about what happened. This is an out-of-control agency, and there must be consequences.
Do you think that this sends a message not only to yourself, but other lawmakers who want to go out and be able to ask questions to different secretaries?
Of course, for an administration that has talked about free speech, the First Amendment, respect for the rule of law, we are seeing that they are threatening judges. They are arresting judges for people who do not rule in the way that they agree with. They have openly talked about punishing Supreme Court justices for not ruling in the way that they want them to rule. They are falsely and egregiously indicting members of Congress on baseless accusations. They are being incredibly reckless in what they're doing, and this is all coming down not to the facts, not to crime, not to the law, but to political intimidation. And we will not be intimidated. We will not be silenced. If they want to come in and arrest every member of Congress, they can come and get us. But at some point, the Republican Party and the Senate, the United States Republican Senate, needs to decide what is an impeachable offense, because at a certain point, it will not be about Democrats and Republicans. They will start going after Republican senators who do not do what they want. So what kind of environment do we want here in America?
According to Congressman Issa, things have already begun to smooth over between Kristi Noem as well as Mr. Padilla. They've already exchanged phone numbers, and they've already said that the charges are not going to be filed whatsoever. So can you talk to this already, that basically they've started communicating?
I find it very interesting that the Secretary of Homeland Security somehow is claiming to not recognize or know who the United States Senator for the state of California is, when her express job is to be interacting with us all the time. She knows who I am. She better know who he is, because she's been all up in the city of Los Angeles, and we're supposed to believe that she doesn't know who the two United States senators for the state of California are? No. Thank you.
Thank you. We have to go.
Today's dramatic escalation in the Trump administration's conflict with judges. A protest getting underway in Milwaukee, Wisconsin this hour after FBI agents arrested a county circuit judge this morning. The Justice Department accusing Judge Hannah Dugan of helping an undocumented immigrant avoid arrest after he appeared in her courtroom last week. This appears to be the first time the Trump administration has charged a sitting local official with obstructing immigration enforcement, at least that we know of.
That's her picture up on the screen, Hannah Dugan, who is now in custody. You cannot obstruct a criminal case, and really shame on her.
That, of course, the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, on Fox News touting the judge's arrest after the FBI director, Kash Patel, first broke the news in a post on the platform formerly known as Twitter. It was later deleted. Patel wrote this, quote, "We believe Judge Dugan intentionally misdirected federal agents away from the subject to be arrested in her courthouse, Eduardo Flores Ruiz, allowing the subject, an illegal alien, to evade arrest." Let's get straight to CNN's Whitney Wild. She is live outside the federal courthouse in Milwaukee. Whitney, what more are you learning about this arrest?
These unsealed court documents give quite a bit of detail about what federal law enforcement thinks led up to this, what they felt was their obligation to eventually arrest this judge. They say this all stemmed from an incident that happened April 18th when Flores Ruiz was due in court in front of Judge Hannah Dugan. He was there to appear on battery charges. Through the course of the morning, Judge Dugan learned that federal agents were there to arrest him. There were about 6 federal agents there from multiple agencies. The FBI, DEA, and ICE among them. According to the complaint, when Judge Dugan learned that they were there to arrest Flores Ruiz, she became very upset. She actually pulled some of those agents aside and had a phone call with the chief judge, in which the chief judge insisted that any arrests would have to take place in the public area of the courthouse. And this is crucial, Casey, because what they say happened next was that Judge Dugan went into her courtroom and as Flores Ruiz and his attorney were set to leave through the public door, the door that would have led to the hallway, she, according to the complaint, said, "Wait, come with me," and then ushered them through the jury door, which took them to a private area of the courthouse. That made it obviously much more difficult for these agents to arrest Flores Ruiz. They were able eventually through the course of the morning to arrest him. But what the FBI makes clear in that complaint is that they believe that was an obstruction of justice. And so they've moved forward with this arrest. And while, as you point out, it is a major escalation, it is not altogether surprising given that they have said from the outset that they are prepared to bring the full force of the law against anyone. That includes elected state and local officials if they perceive them as blocking their duty to, as they say, enforce these immigration laws across the country, Casey.
All right, Whitney Wild for us outside that courthouse in Milwaukee, where, of course, you can see and hear people gathering in reaction to what we have seen. Whitney, thank you very much.